Now I'll pass the mic to Charlotte Craig, she's she's a secretary on our board of directors, but she's also in the community and a really advocate for anything related to new immigrants, diversity. She's really at the center of our work at the Canada for Africa Group. Over to you, Charlotte.
And thank you, Rob. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us this morning. I've got a pretty long question, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So COVID-19 has made it abundantly clear that international students and migrant and foreign workers play a crucial role in Canada's economy. And the federal government has acknowledged this. The government has also acknowledged we've fallen short by less than half of our immigration goals for 2020. We know these workers and people of color in general are more likely to work low-income, high-risk, essential jobs in the service, agriculture, manufacturing, and supply chain industries. And immigrants represent 1 in 4 frontline workers in the healthcare industry. These workers are vulnerable to exploitation and abuse because of their precarious immigration status, and now they face additional risk by working alongside us through a pandemic. Minister Mendicino has mentioned the potential for an immigration pathway specifically for these essential workers. My question is, what can we do to ensure this acknowledgement extends to protecting the rights of these workers and building capacity to fast-track immigration for these hopeful new Canadians?
Where do you live?
I'm in Manitoba currently, although I was born and raised outside of Ottawa.
All right, good. Just checking. Just checking. I like to know who I'm talking to. So great points. Great point. COVID-19 has revealed many things, many fault lines in society, whether it's long-term care facilities, whether it's hospital capacity, whether it's just readiness. And Canada's not alone. I mean, every country in the world, nobody was preparing for kind of a worst case pandemic, and we got one. It is the event for my parents, the Depression, and then primarily World War II was defining cultural, social, economic event of their lives. And they had 5 years. Now, I think this pandemic, for anybody younger than me, if you're in your teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, this is the defining event. And it has shown that it doesn't treat all people equally. People who are more vulnerable before are even more vulnerable now. And so that's all of that we know. You raised particularly issue around newcomers. I tend to use the word newcomers because I include immigrants, economic immigrants, temporary foreign workers, refugees, asylum seekers. Those are all the different kind of categories of newcomers. And what is interesting is I don't think Canadians generally recognize that when we fall short in our immigration numbers by half or even more, it's not just the newcomer who's paying a price. Canada's paying a price. We need immigrants. And at the Conference Board of Canada, every business group, every organization says our targets, even if our targets are 400,000, 500,000 a year, 600,000 a year, it's still too low. We probably need as many as 1 million newcomers in this country every year just to keep our standard of living up. And we need a full range, not just newcomers who do low-paid entry-level jobs. We need those, and we need farm workers, we need healthcare workers, we need investors, we need teachers, we need doctors, we need engineers, we need homemakers, we need grandparents, because grandparents play a role in the family, because then you don't need as much daycare because you've got all of that system is critical. And COVID-19, we're going to be paying a price for several years now because our numbers are down. The numbers are down, obviously, because airplanes aren't flying, because we have border restrictions. People can't leave their countries, let alone come into Canada. And that's public health. So I'm not being critical of that. But what it means is we have to build a capacity now to multiply what we're doing over the next 2 years because we're falling behind. And our universities, our colleges are paying a price because they don't have foreign students coming in. And that is a problem because that's how our universities not only survive economically, but survive culturally. Our universities are richer because we look like the world in our universities. And that's a good thing. Obviously, with temporary foreign workers, farm workers, migrant workers, etc., there's a double problem. One is that we're not going to have crops planted this spring if we don't have temporary foreign workers, but also, especially island states in the Caribbean, in Latin America, a little less so than in Africa, those remittances, which are going back home, sustain a country, Philippines particularly as well. And, so it's a double whammy. We don't have the economic growth in Canada we need, and the food we need, and the care we need, and those other countries don't as well. So we have two major COVID-19 response programs. Karina Gould, the Minister for International Development, is working on making sure, whether it's vaccines or economic capacity, because it's a health crisis and an economic crisis, Canada's playing a leadership role in the world to make sure that the recovery doesn't just happen in the North and in the West. The recovery has to happen everywhere. And Minister Champagne is playing a leadership role. I think he had a meeting yesterday of foreign ministers around the world to keep supply chains moving, because that is what keeps the economies of other countries going as well. We need materials and goods, but they need the markets. And so we have a major problem. Minister Mendicino has said that he wants to he has developed a pathway for frontline healthcare workers to get faster citizenship. Yet, I would say it should not just be healthcare workers, but I'm pretty liberal in this sense that I think I was talking to a friend who's actually Nigerian, and we went for a walk on the boardwalk in the beaches in Toronto on Sunday, and he's applying for his citizenship, and he's not working right now due to COVID-19. He got laid off. The fee for citizenship, I don't know, it's like $800 or something, is a barrier to him becoming a citizen. And so I'm going to pay that. I want him to get a citizenship, and we're going to figure that one out. But it also tells us, I don't want barriers to citizenship like that. I want, when people want to come to this country, I want them to be welcomed. I want clean and quick pathways to citizenship, and I want it to be easier. That also means money into immigration and settlement services. That means money into language training. That means money into the kinds of health care that you need, particularly, say, for a refugee or refugee claimant, which will be heavier on the mental health needs, post-traumatic stress disorder. We need our immigration and settlement services. They're good in Canada, but they can be better. And we need to have mental health services that are better. And we need to have culturally specific things to help. And this is why I tend to believe in the private sponsorship program for refugees. Not that settlement services don't do well. I've got a big one right here in my riding in Thorncliffe Park. But I want Canadians to own the programs around newcomers. And right now it's sort of professionalized. I mean, thank you, Charlotte, for doing your work. But I want every Canadian to recognize that their lives are better when they know people from other countries.